So anytime you decided to embark on reading Surah Al-Baqarah, you are held back by that one obstacle, that is your inability to read it in Arabic. Am I right? Also, since active reading is better than listening, although listening has its own merits, you are wondering if it suffices to read a translation instead. Is that correct? If you have nodded in agreement to any of the above statements, then you have no excuse to skip this video, in which I'm going to answer just those questions and a bit more. If you stay to the end, I will share with you the good news of a program I am working on to help you be able to master reading Surah Al-Baqarah. Remember, when it comes to mastering the Quran, it is only the one who chooses to be left behind will be left behind. Now, get your cup of coffee or tea and let's do this in a moment, please. Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum. A moment, please. We have learned from two different videos on this channel, Al-Bushra by G-Salam, and from an article on gsalam.net, the significance of reading Surah Al-Baqarah on a constant basis for the Muslim. Links to all that are in the description below. However, from time to time, due to the significance of the subject matter, more questions do come in. The most recent ones come from comments in the original video. Altogether, when themed, posts like, I don't know how to read in Arabic. Can I read a translation of Surah Al-Baqarah instead? Therefore, this episode of A Moment Please is addressing that. But before that, let's contextualize the surah and then get to the conclusion. So first, why do we read Surah Al-Baqarah in the first place? It is important to understand that we read Surah Al-Baqarah, and for that matter the entire Quran, for various reasons and purposes, such as to communicate with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to understand the message of Islam. We also read the Quran in our prayers to fulfill the conditions of such prayers. Furthermore, we read the Quran for teaching and learning purposes, for seeking to understand it and to reflect upon its meaning, and also to create new meaning from such reflections. In addition to all that, we read the Quran to attain spiritual protection and develop emotional stabilization. It is important to be clear at this point that to achieve the desired results, each reason and purpose requires a different setting, a different preparation, and sometimes different procedures. In the context of this video, we are reading Surah Al-Baqarah and, for that matter, the Quran to attain spiritual protection. In other words, in the context of this video, we are not reading Surah Al-Baqarah or the Quran to seek understanding, especially for those of us who don't understand the Arabic language. Because for someone who understands the Arabic language, for whatever purpose he reads, he can still manage to realize the understanding. Having said that, it shouldn't be misunderstood by any means that we are undermining the importance of understanding the Quran. After all, we don't only read the Quran just to understand. We read, memorize, listen, understand, and apply. Read. In my video, Surah Al-Baqarah, listening versus reading, we agree that no doubt about the fact that listening to the recitation of the surah or to the recitation of the Quran has some good and positive effects. It is also extremely helpful for children and auditory learners. However, active reading is what does the miracle when it comes to spirituality. A miracle which just listening can never be able to earn you, no matter what. The same thing applies here. Reading the meaning of the Quran in the form of translation or commentary certainly has its set of benefits, but that is for intellectual development, and spiritual protection is not one of them. The truth is that a translation of the Quran is not Quran. It is just a translation of the meaning of the Quran. The actual Quran remains in its Arabic form. And when the word Quran is mentioned, that is what it refers to. Quran, the Arabic form. So as you will perform your prayer, your salah in Arabic, you should also read your Quran in Arabic to seek protection. And this takes us to memorize, which comes with read. Memorize. You will need to memorize something from the Quran to be able to reproduce it in your prayers. And you will have to read it in its Arabic form to be able to memorize it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has preserved the Quran to be memorized in Arabic. That was pertaining to read and memorize. Now, listen. It is also important to listen to the recitation of Surah Al-Baqarah and to the recitation of the entire Quran for that matter. This is because in addition to it being helpful for children and auditory learners, it will replace the time you spend listening to music or other unnecessary stuff. And we have learned in our previous video that one should quit listening to music if he is serious about seeking spiritual protection. That is pertaining to listen. Now, understand. Understand the Quran by reading its interpretation or commentary or tafsir or translation. Interpretations and commentaries may come in Arabic language. I'm sure you know that majority of tafsir out there for the Quran are done in Arabic actually. In fact, majority of Arabs, especially today, need interpretation to understand the Quran. Furthermore, translations differ from one translator to another translator, even if it is done in the same language. And now, apply. After all that, the Muslim needs to apply what he learns from reading, memorizing, listening, and understanding the Quran in his real life. So in a nutshell, reading the Quran is different from listening to its recitation. Listening to its recitation is different from reading its interpretation or translation or commentary. And so is memorizing differs from simply applying. None of all that replaces another. So back to the question, can I read a translation instead? Yes, you can read the translation of the Quran. In fact, as a Muslim, you should read the translation of the Quran. However, that should be for the aim to and the purpose of understanding, not necessarily for the purpose of seeking spiritual protection. The fact that one of the purposes for reading the Quran is for spiritual protections means that it is similar to the prayer we perform, the salah we perform. And the act of performing prayer or salah is different from the process of learning to pray. This is to say, when we perform prayers, we do it in Arabic. We must do it in Arabic, even if we don't understand the Arabic words we produce in the prayer. That is what act of worship is about. However, when learning to pray, we can do it in any language of our convenience, as long as it helps us to learn to pray properly. This is to say, when we want to read the Quran for protection purpose, we should read it in its native language, and that is the Arabic language. Something I find it important to remind about is that the Quran is preserved in the Arabic language for a reason. Needless to add that the Quran is unlike the Bible or other scriptures that are treated as their original versions even after being translated many times to different languages. The Quran is not like any of those. Even though a translated version of the meaning of the Quran is treated as Quran, it is not an actual Quran. In fact, we all know how different translations vary in presenting the meaning of the Quran. Okay, let's put it this way. As I mentioned earlier, the Quran may be interpreted in Arabic. In other words, it is translated from Arabic to Arabic, and that is called tafsir. Can you simply read the Arabic translated version, a tafsir for an example, and consider it as reading the Quran? Can you use that in your prayers, reading the tafsir of Surah Al-Fatiha instead of reading the real Surah Al-Fatiha? The answer is no. So now let's move on to the bonus tip. Not all of us non-Arabs had the opportunity to learn the Arabic language from childhood. However, that doesn't mean one can't learn it in adulthood. Also, there's a difference between learning to read the Quran and learning to master the Arabic language. It will certainly take you lesser the time you need to master reading the Quran than you would for learning to master the language. Therefore, if you can't read the Quran because you don't know Arabic, it is not too late to learn how to read it. As a Muslim, nothing equals your ability to read the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in its native language. In light of that, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I am happily working on a brand new program on tvq.academy, your borderless school of the Quran. tvq.academy is an online Quran school that is dedicated for teaching and learning the Quran. I'm working on a series called SimplyRYQ, Let's Master Al-Baqarah. First, the series will be available to you absolutely free of charge. Again, when it comes to mastering the Quran, it's only the one who chooses to be left behind will be left behind. Also, the series aims to accommodate anyone who doesn't know how to read the Surah Al-Baqarah, but is eager to learn to read it. If you are the one, then head over to tvq.academy's YouTube channel and subscribe to be notified when the program is launched, inshallah ta'ala. In the meantime, while I'm still working on the program, you may want to start some homework by engaging yourself with the Arabic alphabet playlist, also available on tvq.academy's YouTube channel, Juz Amma Practical Tajweed series, which is also available on tvq.academy's YouTube channel, as well as SimplyRYQ Surah Al-Mulk series, which is also available on tvq.academy's YouTube channel. Links to the playlist of each of the series mentioned are in the description below. Now, let's wrap up. I know it is not easy learning something new as an adult, but then again, it is better later than never. Believe me, if you spend 15 minutes every day to follow the series or to learn to read the Quran with any qualified Quran teacher, you will realize how easy it is than you ever thought, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among the companions of the Quran. May we be among those who Surah Al-Baqarah will come to intercede for on the day of judgment. Until our next episode of A Moment Please, I leave you in Allah's protection. See you then and see you in Jannah. Wassalamu alaikum.